Welcome to Evolvepreneur Podcast Channel. I've got a very special guest today, John Vuong, who's an owner and SEO founder of Local SEO Search, and he helps small businesses rank on Google and dominate their local market. He puts a strong emphasis on relationships and treats his clients like family. So I'd really love to have a chat about SEO and Google and stuff today. So welcome to the show, John. And it's a great name to start with.
Thanks a lot, John. I'm excited to share some insights, knowledge, and hopefully some of your audience members take some information and use it actively for their business.
Great. And so just give me a little bit of a background on how you got to in your business, because a lot of our listeners have basically an entrepreneurial journey where they kind of sometimes usually end up where they don't expect. I mean, I started in a bank. I ended up running a software company and a marketing company and writing books and stuff. So when I was 16, I would have never dreamed that I was doing what I'm doing now. So I think a lot of us most people accidental entrepreneurs, usually by choice sometimes, but sometimes by necessity. So how did you get so you run an SEO business? How long have you been operating and how did you get to where you were?
Yeah, definitely. So I started this agency back in 2013, so a little over 7 years. The reason I started was I was working for a fairly large print media company. Mm-hmm. It was called Yellow Pages.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember them well.
It was a directory, and I was there for over 5 years. Okay. And that was pretty much my longest stint in terms of my job career-wise. Mm-hmm. But before that, I also dabbled in traditional media as well as online media. And before I really felt my comfort zone in really servicing localized small, medium-sized businesses at Yellow Pages. While there, I built a lot of great relationships with business owners. And at that time, I probably serviced upwards of a couple thousand business owners. And every single meeting I had was a battle because of what was happening, transpiring. People were moving towards a different medium, right? They were moving away from traditional media and they're gravitating towards Google, right? Yeah. And the internet was, at their infancy, I would say, but people were consuming it. They were spending more time in front of a computer, desktop, laptop. Tablets were not that as prevalent as it is today, and smartphones were just about to take off, right? So at that time, people were just getting used to navigating on Google. And what I found was a lot of business owners were just spending a lot of money, but not getting a good return on their investment at Yellow Pages. And what I discovered was people wanted options. They wanted to get the same sort of ROI that they used to get 20 years ago, or even further. And they wanted to just start seeing that, a company actually wanted to take care of them again, right? Because Yellow Pages kept raising their prices, but not producing a good return anymore, right? And they were just a big monopoly, I would say. And therefore, for me being fairly young at that time, I was like eager and I wanted to try something different, right? And a lot of my clients at that time said, look, if you did something different, let me know. And that's what I did, right? So I discovered this whole SEO space, not knowing much about it. So I just knew that this was a new medium that was kind of what a lot of my business owner clients were asking about. So I knew there was a demand. There was a need there, and I just had to fill that need. So I was always in sales and marketing. So it was very easy of a transition to sell clients. And that's how I got started, selling them, signing up for a package, and then figuring out how to get them on that first page.
Makes sense, yeah. And I think the interesting thing with small businesses that a lot of people that start small businesses aren't very good in sales. Well, I've seen this a lot, right? And so what happens is that they never really consider themselves a salesperson. They never actually really focus on making sales properly, so they avoid it. And I've got a couple of clients at the moment I'm talking to that's like, you got to get your mindset around the fact that if no one else is selling your business, you're the salesperson, right? And
exactly.
And the reality is that framing scenario, like I think with the Yellow Pages was interesting because they should have been Google, right? The Yellow Page companies that did all this should have been Google. There's just like Encyclopedia Britannica should have been Wikipedia. Like it's really obvious to them right now looking back and seeing it, but they got caught by surprise. And I think they never really ever recovered from that. And I remember paying $10,000 for a full page ad, and you had to, and people, like I've still got a plumbing client at the moment that calls himself A1 Plumbing because he wants to be, in fact, he actually registered as A1 Plumbing, just so he was at the top of the yellow pages, right? And I mean, that means nothing now. Like, the alphabetical order doesn't work anymore, because the only way that they could do it in the past, right, was to put an alphabetical order. So everybody just put A's in front of everything to try and, gain the system. So I think it's interesting that people sort of don't really know much about sales in terms of when they get into business. So obviously, coming from that background, I came from banking, and interesting enough, banking trains you on how to do sales. So it was like an easier transition than, say, being an expert in an area and then ending up to have to try and sell it. So with SEO, there's been a lot of scenarios, that have come up in recent times, like the Google slaps, where they basically decided to change everything in the algorithms and kind of reset the bar. And I think it was interesting. I was reading a book the other day and it's talking about the concept of the Facebook slap. So sooner or later, Facebook's going to just wipe out half the businesses on there because they're not economic to them, and they want to go after the big guys because the big guys don't focus on return on investment so much, they just spend money. So do you think that the SEO has got a future? Do you think it's where do you think it is in the scheme of things in terms of like yellow pages? Is it something that eventually it's going to phase out, or do you think it's getting more competitive? And where do you see the thing going?
Yeah, so I'm not sure a lot of your audience members know what SEO is. I'll just take a step back. SEO is really the natural appearing results on Google search. So when you're typing in a keyword, typically you'll see ads at the top. Then there's a local 3-pack on the map. Yep. And below that is also natural listings. So what we focus on is the map, which is free listings, and below that, which is also free. And what Google refers that to is more like the natural or organic section of Google.
That you kind of earn, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then the paid is where Google makes their billions of dollars a day, right? Where business owners are paying per click, right? Which also means there's such a huge demand of queries, a lot of people searching on a daily basis for them to make billions of dollars. And there's enough business owners that are willing to pay for it to make Google the size it is, because I would say 70% of their revenue is through ads, through AdSense or through YouTube ads or Google ads or their ad network. There's a lot of ads going on, right? Because Google is collecting data. They know a lot about you, right? Your behavior, sites that you crawl, there's cookies, there's cache, there's a lot of things that's being extracted. And what they're trying to do is provide the best user result for that given search query by that user, and then match it with business owners that they deem to be that best kind of result for that user, right? So you searching versus even your neighbor or your family member will have a different result all the time, right? So what you try to do and what we do for all of our clients is really position them as that expert or authoritative figure, where Google then knows that, look, they play by the rules, they know what they're talking about, they are experts in their domain niche, in their localized marketplace or whatever it may be. And what they are doing is just running a really good business, right? And Google rewards you for doing good, right? So before Google existed, actually, think about pre-internet times, right? Pre-Google. How did everyone search for business owners, right? It was traditionally the yellow pages. It was a directory, and pretty much it's sorted by categories, which is now keywords on Google. And in the white pages, it was more the brand name, the company. So it's the exact match brand on search. So if you think about it, they kind of just replicated what Yellow Pages did, but Yellow Pages didn't act fast enough. There were, savvier, younger people that kind of wanted to make information free and accessible in a very fast and convenient way for the users, right? And once that became more of a, it got picked up by the main consumers, then that's how Google took off, right? So as long as there's usage and people now have access to information so quickly, so easily at their fingertips, on their smartphones, on their desktop, tablet, laptops, whatever it is. There's so many more ways that people can just access information. And that's what Yellow Pages did a really good job over hundreds of years ago, right? Up until maybe 20 years ago when Google kind of started taking off, right? But every single home had a Yellow Pages, every single business, every storefront, and everything else. Like everyone knew that they would get a comprehensive business directory with every single business go in there, right? And that's what Google has kind of replaced now.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's a concept where, like the earning it in terms of a lot of people kind of try and rig the system, right? The latest and greatest thing. And I think the reality is that if you kind of think about it from a business perspective, like you said, and you kind of earn your stripes there and you do the right thing, then, ultimately you'll be okay, because the reality is that people kind of game the system. The algorithms change, things change, and they end up getting caught out. So end of the day, I think that one of the things that people get wrapped up with, and I've seen a lot with SEO, is, I guess, maybe we should talk about this a little bit, called black hat and white hat, right? So a lot of businesses will come along, and the SEO guru will come along and go, I'm going to do all these things and get you ranked. And it's a very short-lived thing usually. Usually it lasts a couple of months if you're lucky, and then away you go, and then you're lost again. And then sometimes you get penalized, right? So maybe talk a little bit about white hat and black hat in terms of, and obviously understanding sometimes what you think is perfectly fine isn't, right? Sometimes Google go, no, you can't do that.
So what I'm going to also refer back to is back in the day, 20 plus years ago, how did these
You don't look that old, man. Oh, come on.
But how did these businesses survive without the internet? Right? So think about it. These bricks and mortar businesses relied strictly on the Yellow Page, but they relied heavily on word of mouth and referrals, which meant they had to run a really good business, which is create good value, have good value prop, price it properly, service them properly, like just run a good business.
Yes.
And then people will then talk about you, right? So pretty much what used to work still works today. And if you don't run a good business, Google will catch up and know that you're not running good business.
You out.
Exactly. So all these shortcut hacks, people that claim the world, they guarantee this and that. Well, first off, you got to understand that, yes, you need a digital footprint. You need to market yourself digitally, because that's how a lot of businesses are found today. But you got to first start off with a really good foundation of running a really good business. Know who your customers are. What is your product and service? How do you differentiate yourself? Do you know how to price it properly? Do you have good reviews and testimonials? How's your case studies looking? White papers? Just all that has to be very foundationally sound before you run a really good SEO campaign. So when we take on clients, we have to find out where are they in terms of their business cycle? Are they starting off? If they are starting off, is it just a business plan, or is it really a business? Because do you have revenue? Do you even know who your customers are? How do I help you if you don't even know? Right? And then find out price wise, and then, run a good business by knowing who your customers are. So they have to be paying customers first. So who you kind of want to go after. What is that persona looking like? Because without having real customers that pay you, you're going to take on anything. And that's not the best way to run a business, right?
Exactly.
So there's so many synergies, as in starting a good SEO or campaign versus running a good business. And then, of course, there's black hat and white hat. So what I always tell people to do is go clean, follow the rules, like you're running a really good business at a bricks and mortar dentist chain down the street, right? They take care of their customers. They provide really good service. They have really good customer service. They have multi-touch points. They have good technology, brochures, reward programs, whatever it may be, has to be exactly replicated to digital, right? And don't try to trick the system. There's no easy way, and Google will find out, because they're AI, they're rank brain, they're so smart, and they're tracking everything. So there's no way to game any system, and everything's short-lived, right? If you're in it for the long term, say you've invested so much money either starting your business or going to school for a profession, right? And you know this is what you want to do for 5, 10, 20 more years in your life. Well, that's where SEO can really elevate your game. But if you don't even know if this is a real business or not, I would say play around with ads. Go with Google ads, go with social media ads, go on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever it may be, to find out if this is a real business for you, right? Once you figure that out, then SEO should be able to expand your reach, really refine who your clients are, and really become that expert, position you as that go-to, authoritative business.
So what happens, like in the old days, and I think it's because I've been out of SEO a little while because I haven't really done that a lot for a while, because I think the biggest problem is what Facebook did is it kind of diverted people's attention onto an advertising platform where you basically just run ads and make money. But the reality is it's an expensive way to go. And so someone who finds your website by accident, let's say off Google, that's a very cheap lead in comparison to paying $20, $30 for someone who's actually signing up for something. So what's the kind of basic toolkit, do you think? Like, should they be writing blogs all the time? Should they should they look at their website and make sure that they do some sort of SEO audit on it? What should be the toolbox that they should make sure they've got things in place to make sure that's actually going to work for them in Google?
Yeah, so SEO is it's not like a one size fit all, right? Like, it's an evolving thing, just like running a business. You're running so many different hats. You have operations, sales, marketing, HR, product development, everything, right? So think about it that way. Your website is pretty much your storefront digitally.
Yep.
And if you don't run it that way, it's going to be very difficult for you to scale your business, right? So you have to understand, like, everything matters, not just one aspect of it. And if only one aspect of it in your storefront really is, operating very well, like you do really good in customer service, but you don't do anything else well, then you're going to fail, right? So it's the same thing as SEO, where you have to take care of your website, which is technical. You got to make sure you do audits, make sure you implement, page compression of images, speed, HTTPS, make sure that everything is running operational, smooth, indexed by Google. And then, of course, building authority, amplify that with links and getting people to talk about you, share your message, get good reviews, reputation, just writing good content, of course, but writing good content for the purpose of positioning you as the expert, right? So that I would not say go and write one a week or one a month. I would say wait until you write a really good piece of content, then publish it, because more people will talk about it once it actually makes sense for people to then amplify it, right? Versus just putting out stuff just for the sakes of putting it out, right? It doesn't do you good, and it doesn't do good for the audience members either. So it's very similar to like the social media, like you mentioned, right? Everyone is buzzing about Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the social media platforms, right? The challenge is you have to understand why people are on social media in the first place. Facebook is really to connect friends and family, right? It's a platform as a community to chat, to have groups and dialogue amongst peers, right? Your friends. LinkedIn is more of a job recruiting site, right? Where people are then posting. And of course, there's a lot of job opportunities there. That's why you update your resume there, right? Twitter is more of a snippet of little news bits, sound bites, right? Where you can update whatever is on your mind, just tweet about it, right? And then of course
they're scary with that.
And then there's Instagram, where it's all images. So it's pretty much the same as magazines, right? Where people love pictures, they like it, they follow. And then there's influencers, right? So you want to buy that shoe because the Kardashians wear it or whatever it may be, right? So you have to understand the platform, and you have to understand where your customers are coming from, right? So if they are that demographics, which is whoever may be consuming that platform, then by far go spend money in that platform. But you have to understand who your customers are. Where are they consuming a lot of the content, right? But if they are anywhere in that buying cycle, typically they go on Google if they are serious in terms of buying a product or service, right? So that's why I still believe SEO will always play a vital role, because search, yes, there's paid ads, and that's how Google makes their money. But you also understand that majority of the people, consumers, will know that it's paid ads and won't click on ads.
Yeah,
they will go
I don't
below.
click on. Anytime I ever click on ads, is if I'm getting desperate to a degree, where I'm starting to think I can't find a suitable thing here. And I mean, in local business, it probably is a little different, because when you say suddenly looking for a plumber, then you kind of like, you are looking for something that's going to fill the buttons that you want to, you're looking for. But if you're looking for something else, then the reality is you're doing research, you're trying to find things out. You're not being sold to at that point, are you? Really, sometimes you're just researching, trying to find things.
Yeah. So, but that's what SEO can provide, right? So depending on where they're at in their buyer journey, right? Informational, or, navigational, or they're transactional, right? Or even afterwards, right? Like support. So Google is still that platform, and people will use different terms, and you need to make sure your website can cater towards every single person throughout that buyer journey, and position yourself as that expert for whatever product or service that people are looking for, right? So that's why SEO, I still feel like it's still a vital tool and a medium for every single businesses. But a lot of them are scared. They're not sure who to use, what it really means, because it is very technical, right? And there's a lot of unknowns. The challenge is a lot of people are promising the world. They're guaranteeing stuff. They're bombarded. and they bombard you with so good offers, emails and phone calls, and they just start hitting you. And you're like, okay, what is this? And why should I need you? And, and people not just local, but overseas are also spamming you, right? So there's so much clutter out there, and they don't really know what they don't know. So, what I try to do is educate. I want to inform. I want to let people know, like, don't be scared, but make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, and work with someone that you trust. Just like a product or service that you kind of want to buy, do your investigation, due diligence, go do reference checks, go do, back checks on the site, the reviews, everything, right?
Check them out.
Everything else, like yourself, right? When you buy a bigger ticket item, you're going to do your due diligence. So why not do that for any business interaction?
And I think that's a dangerous thing, because over the years I've seen people come to me and say, look, I hired this SEO guy, they made a mess of it, now I'm banned on Google, they've actually, and so it's your reputation at the end of the day, it's your domain name. And I think people forget, I was at a conference a few years ago, and they'd come from America, and they'd come over and they started talking about assets, and they were referring to website assets. They were calling websites assets. And at that stage, I hadn't really thought about it that way. Like, it was something okay, fair enough. It is an asset, and it should be considered one. And most people don't consider their website an asset. They consider it like a brochure or something. They never necessarily check it themselves to make sure it's right. Never be your own customer. I reckon you should essentially Google yourself and check your experience, because sometimes, you can find things and out you didn't even realize. And I think that's the danger, is if you just get a website done and forget about it, it's not making any money for you, then you kind of like forget, and then suddenly the links are broken, or you're getting penalized because it's not mobile friendly or whatever. So there's so many complexities.
And that's why having like an SEO company, or even having tools and knowledge about what is best practice and what's going on, because someone that's not technical, I would say hire someone to do it, because you probably don't understand and not comfortable trying to learn it. But if you have that interest, there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of blogs, there's a lot of good people out there wanting to support and help you throughout this, entrepreneurial journey, right? But the challenge is you need to be willing to take that next step and understand, yes, a website is an asset, just like a bricks and mortar company that you have, right? Like, it should help you, and it should be one of the top ways you're generating leads. If it's not, then something is not right? It's not just a brochure. It should actually help you scale your business.
Yeah. And so what happens with, one of the areas of your expertise is obviously local search. So do you think that someone who's like an online business that doesn't necessarily have a local presence as such, like they're dealing with people in their country, their state, or, even in the world, does that localized listing concept, is that important? Is it something they should be worried about? Like, I mean, a lot of I would imagine that a lot of online businesses do not register on Google Business to even register their business name or anything like that. I bet you they don't do it. But the reality is that if you don't do it, then that's a level of credibility, if you like, isn't it? Like if you're not registered properly as a business on Google, then they're never going to treat you like one, right?
Yeah, so Google My Business, which is the local 3-pack, you can verify and own it. The challenge is if you're an e-commerce site, if you don't actually have a bricks and mortar, or you don't service a local community, it's very difficult to verify it because you're pretty much just selling widgets online, and anyone can do that, right? So that storefront doesn't really mean much for you because you're servicing a larger community, not just localized, but it will be national or international, right, in scope. So the reason you want that map so that people know where you live or reside and service is a service-based industry, like a local plumber or roofer or, trade people. And then, of course, someone that has a bricks and mortar store, right? So if you are a dentist or a massage therapist, chiropractor, physio, then, of course, you want to verify all that. And people tend to shop locally anyways, between 2 kilometers to 5 kilometers, right, within your local vicinity. But then, of course, if you're an internet marketer, then there's no boundaries, right? So, but again, you got to position yourself. A lot of local marketers also have a storefront because they service a local community, right? And people tend to always still want to shop local, meet someone in face-to-face to see if you're the real deal, right? Check out your office. So all these things that used to work, I always bring back to like Yellow Pages, it still works today.
Yeah, business theory still works, right? The principles of business never change.
Still works. So for me, it's all about like perception, right? You have to make sure that your customers still feel like you are the real deal. Even if it's through a Zoom meeting or a Google Hangout or whatever it may be during this COVID, but you still have to portray like you're localized or you're someone that actually cares for them, right? And wants to service them and look for the best interest for them.
So I think it's interesting. And I mean, sometimes even if you are an online business, like you say, you tend to drive past your customers every day. It's like people get in a car and they'll drive like 200k to see a customer. In that time period, how many people have they passed that actually could be customers, right? So sometimes just thinking about whether you might be able to have a local presence and worth claiming that area is probably still worth thinking about, because at the end of the day, you still might get clients. Like for us, like one of my businesses is book publishing, and so an author can come from anywhere. But certainly the plenty of people in my local area that would be looking for that. And the chances are that most of your competitors that do that don't list locally anyway, right? So maybe having to think about whether you could offer something locally that's easy to, that might make sense. And then maybe your competitors haven't thought of that. And so you're going to rank quite highly if you actually do offer it.
Yeah, my suggestion is always start off local, dominate local, and expand national afterwards, because it's easy, quick wins, and it allows you to see if it actually makes sense to continue your business or not. In terms of like, especially if you're starting off, right, and you don't know anything about this digital space, and if there's a good company or yourself is able to like start ranking yourself localized, because there's enough traffic, there's enough users looking for these terms of your product and services that you offer, right? So even if there's a higher, like might not be a huge amount of people searching, but it's a very high conversion rate. All those people that are searching will convert. They are actively looking right now. All they need is to find someone that they can trust and resonate with on a local level, right? That's all that matters. I don't really care about getting everywhere. I'm more concerned about like getting the right type of people who are in play, that are actively looking, right? So the conversion rate's a lot higher versus like I'm getting thousands of impressions, thousands of clicks, but I only get one client that's interested. I'd rather get 10 clicks and get 2 clients interested, right? Like it's all about the ratios, right? So just take care of your own tribe and people and understand who they are and market towards them.
And I think that the challenge here with social media is that people, like you see a lot of social media influencers that have got millions of followers, right? And the reality is that they make very little out of it. I talk to a lot of them where they may have millions of people following them, what they eat and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is that they don't really have buyers. That those people are just following them because that's entertaining for them. So I think the concept is that clicks mean something, not just, and likes don't mean much unless they actually buy from you. So I think the challenge is getting real about the business and saying, okay, well, if I can get traffic that's qualified to my page, then they're going to more likely buy. If I just send a bunch of people that are not even the slightest bit interested, then that's just going to screw everything up, right? Because Google's going to look at it and go, oh, low quality page, no one's really spending any time there. They're just, and I guess the thing is with that too is that there's a lot of things that happen on a website, right? So from my understanding is that Google looks at all these different indicators that happen on the website, and obviously one of them would obviously be how long they spend there and how many pages they go and where they start and end. But there's lots of other things on a website that should be right. Is that right? Correct? And like this should be.
Yeah. User engagement is very important. How long they stay on your website versus bounce rates or conversion rate. Because ultimately, if they stay on your website for a couple minutes, they're actively engaged. They're checking out your services, checking out your blog, checking out case studies, whatever it may be. And then the longer they stay, the most likely reaction will be they're going to contact you because they find something of interest, right? Versus someone that only checks you out for like 5 seconds and presses that back button. And typically that's what happens when you pay for ads, right? Like Facebook ad or Instagram or Google ad, because you're pushing stuff at people. And you have to remember this, Google is like, I would say earning your way, like owning equity in real estate, right? While renting space or ads are really, you're renting. You're only spending money all the time to get in front of these people.
As you stop, that stops, right?
Exactly. And you're interrupting them from their actual activity that they want to do. Like when you're on Facebook, do you really want to look at ads? Probably not, right? You want to check out what your friends and family are doing and are up to, right? When you're on YouTube, unless you're a premium subscriber, every couple minutes you see a video, right? Like a sponsorship. Well, do you really want that? Probably not, right? Like all these things are, but this is how they monetize. They need some way to make money, right? Cool. So these people that are spending tons of money on these advertising platforms, their whole premise is really, it's like branding, awareness, and maybe it's just top funnel. It's just a reminder that I need to buy pizza. I need to buy shoes, right? Whatever that big brand. So whenever they're ready to go to back to school, they're going to buy that brand, right? So it's different. It's perception and it's all marketing. Same as like influence marketing. I would focus on micro influencers where there's huge amounts of engagement versus someone that's a macro influencer. You're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yes, they have millions of followers, but how engaged are they? How active are they? And do they really care about you and your product? Probably not, right? They only care about that money that you're giving them to post a product placement ad that they, you're trying to get more people to buy your product, right? So,
yeah. No, I think that's it. I think the theme here is really earn the right to be there, and I think a lot of businesses may do a website and then forget about it. And what I see a lot of is they'll do a website, they'll get sick of looking at it, so they'll do another website and another website and another website. But the reality is what they're just potentially doing is destroying anything they had in the first place, right? So if they wrote a really good blog article or something and then they moved on to another website and they forgot to translate that over, then they're actually just cutting and pasting out all the information that Google had, becomes irrelevant, and then suddenly they're back to scratch again. So I think having that plan in terms of when you look at the website, what's going to happen at the other end is important. And whenever we transfer a website, we look at where the existing links are going, because that's probably the most dangerous thing that most people don't do. They just let the links die, right? They just and it kills you in terms of Google then, doesn't it?
Yeah. So when you're either buying a business or you're starting a business, you might have links, you might not, but the key is really just making sure that foundationally, you understand the impact you'll have, right? Either trying to do it yourself, hire someone that knows what they're doing, because it could be a detrimental thing. Like if you were ranking fairly high already, you're transitioning, changing your brand name, buying new URLs, and then migrating over with a new website. Of course, you want to make sure canonical redirects are done properly. Like just make sure you have the process in place, someone that's done it hundreds of times versus you trying to do it and making sure that it, nothing falls through a crack, right?
Yeah. So I guess sort of round up a little bit in terms of what you do. So your focus is obviously in local, like a local SEO, but I mean the reality is it works for anything at the end of the day. So what sort of typical money should people invest in SEO? Like, is it something like, for me, I think most people couldn't cope with that kind of concept of having to kind of figure it all out and keep to a schedule. Because the reality is SEO you just don't do it today and then it's gone tomorrow and that's the end of the job. It's not like setting a Facebook profile. You've got to work it, right? You've got to keep that thing. It's an engine that you've got to keep running. What do you think is a reasonable price for someone to pay for SEO as opposed to what you see in the industry where they tend to like there's two very ends of it, like some really cheap, and I think if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true, right? So
yeah, you pay for what you get. Definitely someone that actually knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. The big thing ultimately is, if you are spending money on ads right now, mm-hmm. and you understand that it can really help you grow your business, get in front of more people, your audience types, and hopefully get a really good ROI. Say it could be localized newspaper flyers, brochures, or even trade shows, and you've dabbled in Google ads or whatever it may be, right? And you're spending significant amounts of money, or even hired salespeople, telemarketers, running email campaigns, different advertising techniques, and you're frustrated. You're not getting good, solid ROI. That's where SEO can really jump in and mm-hmm. really help you out, because a lot of my clients spent tons of money in different platforms and were frustrated, or they hired the wrong SEO partner, right? People that overpromised, underdelivered, someone that actually didn't have a really good track record, whatever it may be. I always say, use your gut, do your due diligence, work with someone that you kind of trust, and they'll be honest with you, right? Like they want to see you succeed so that they succeed. Yep. That's what we're looking for as an SEO company. Like we're the good guys here, right? So if you want to really grow your business and scale and escalate, that's where we can help you, as long as it's a good fit. Because ultimately, yes, we work with a lot of local business owners, small, medium-sized business owners. That probably comprises about 75% of our client list, which is, the lawyers, plumbers, dentists, chiro, physios. And then, of course, there's the 25% that's more B2B focused, which is national in scope, international in scope. So it's different strategies, different timelines. And really, we have to look at where you're at and where you want to be. Because with SEO, you got to benchmark. You got to figure out who you're competing with, what they've done, and how do you catch up to them. Because I'm sure there's every industry out there has already been doing SEO, and a lot of your competitors have probably jumped into it. So if you're just starting off, you have to be realistic as well, right?
You need to get on the block, right? They're going to crush you.
and that's the problem. A lot of people have these unrealistic expectations because they've gotten calls and emails and promises, and they've tried others that promised the world and never got there. And therefore, I'm like, if you want to be true to this and you got to understand the concept, like this is what we can do, right? It is long-term. It's more, and yes, I've seen clients rank in the first month, but I've also seen clients take 2 to 3 years to rank, right? Which is realistic, at least. I don't say,
isn't it? Like, I think that's the thing in this world of instant things.
Exactly.
It's people got to have I think they need to lower their expectations a little bit about what's possible and lengthen out the time it takes to get something done. Because, as you say, like what you're really kind of waiting on is almost like I was in a bar, like the Top Gun bar in San Diego once, and there was these referees for the local club and everything, and he said to him, look, to become a referee, someone else has to die. basically, because everybody wants these jobs, and basically they have to, that somebody has to actually, retire or die or whatever so you can get a job. And I think that's the kind of thing with SEO, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, as businesses come and go, they're going to stop their SEO, they're going to drop off. That gives you an opportunity to get in up higher that someone else might have been able to stay there. And so I think that's the thing. You've got to remember that's completely organic and it's changing all the time. And you've got to be aware that things can change overnight. Suddenly that your major competitor can go broke and suddenly everybody's coming to you, right? It's like Zoom was a good example of that. Like suddenly everybody wants to use Zoom. So I think at the end of the day, you've got to be kind of aware that, what your competitors are doing and what's happening next. And I think if nothing else, SEO gives you, doing that SEO kind of initial analysis is very eye-opening for a lot of people.
And if you look at, like, again, back in the day, traditionally, you look at those businesses that succeeded, and it could have been generational, right? Mm-hmm. You starting off, you can't compete with the big guys because they're spending tons of money advertising, full page, yellow pages, brochures, newspapers, you name it. They got huge budgets. Unless you come in with funding private money or you come in with a lot of money to compete, you still don't have that brand recognition. You don't have that, just skill set, right? Like that branding goes a long way, right? So it's the same thing in terms of the digital space. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. But if you understand that and you're equipped and understand that it's a long journey and you're in it for the long term and it's a long game, it's going to really be an asset for you, right? So again, back to the price point, I forgot to mention that. So something like what we offer, we're a full service agency, take care of all the content, technical links, you name it. We kind of do it for you as a one-stop shop. We start at about $1,000 a month, and we go up from there, right? Depending on how competitive it is. We give you a batch of keywords, we do analysis. Like, we're full on, but we also need that contract, right? Because we're not just going to take anyone on for a month-to-month gig, right? We're more
work,
about
right? It's too much work to sort of set up,
and it takes time to start seeing the rewards that you're, like, even getting a link. It can take couple months to get indexed by Google, right? So, all these things are a lot of factors and moving parts, right? So that's what we're all about. We're here to support and help businesses strive and succeed, but they also have to understand where they want to play. But everyone's so eager because they're spending money, not seeing good results right away, not like ads. They see it, but they get frustrated because the ads don't really convert to clients, right?
And I think the thing is, if you look at, like, let's say use $1,000 a month so as a figure, right? If you were getting 100 leads a month, that's like $10 a lead, right? And I think that's what people need to kind of look at is, well, what would a lead cost me if I'm getting leads from SEO, and what's it costing me to get that lead? Because then the cost per lead and cost per customer to me is the two metrics that most people don't track. So at the end of the day, if you look at that and say, well, if I can get 100 people to fill out a form and then maybe one or two then buy, well, then that becomes viable in terms of the way you look at it. So I think a lot of people think, well, how can I quantify the cost? Well, the cost really comes down to ultimately how many people actually, take the next step with you at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, tracking it is a little bit more challenging with SEO versus like Google ads, Facebook ads, any ads, because it's all about impressions, clicks, and conversion rate, right? With SEO, it's more of a longer cycle, and you don't know where and how long will they take before they reach out to you. So, it's a little bit more different. That's all I could say.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that, to me, like I was talking to a business the other day I'm considering going and doing business with, and I've been looking at them for quite some time. And so, and what I noticed is actually they changed their website a couple of times over that period of time, but the reality is it takes time. Some people don't buy straight away, and I think that's the thing that people forget, is that they could have saved your website on a browser, they could have, kept it somewhere, and then suddenly out of the blue they do business with you. It's like, oh, it just happened. But the reality is they could have searched you 6 months ago. It could have gone somewhere and someone just suddenly calls you up, like an assistant who's been slack, like a backlog. So I think you've got to remember what's going on in the brain of that person that's looking at your site and what they're doing and why they originally searched you. So, but I think, to me, like, even if you spend 6 months with an SEO person or a year with an SEO person, that's a good investment in basically your foundations. right?
Yep.
So if you find it doesn't work for you at the end or whatever, then that's okay. But the reality is what you've done is you've put the right things in place that you probably missed in that process. And I think that's probably what most people don't do. They don't kind of audit their site or look at it and talk to an expert and say, well, it looks pretty. And of course the website, and one that I get the most is, the website designer should have known that. All right. And it's
They're
like,
completely different.
no, exactly. And I remember when we went from kind of like to mobile, when people started talking about mobile, and we always used to say mobile first, right? Because you need to make it for mobile. And I've got one client, 75% of his traffic is mobile.
Yep.
And it's because he's running Facebook ads. It makes sense, right? He's driving traffic to Facebook. It's on mobile. Without a proper mobile experience, you haven't done a good job. So I think the end of the day is making sure that, you've got that, process in place that's going to, at least set you up for a long period of time, because web designers they just make it look pretty. The web designers hated mobile. They thought mobile was ugly and they couldn't make it look pretty. So they avoided it. And so I think that's the biggest challenge, is that, the person you thought knew what they were talking about with SEO rarely does. Like most web designers, they're trying to do web design and SEO. They're probably not really experts in either, really. They're probably dabbling in both in some respects.
And even with SEO, like there's so many specialists and different subsets, right? Like content is one piece, link building is another piece, technical is another piece, right? Like user engagement and understanding reputation management. All these are like subsets within SEO. And you can't just do one and expect really good results, right? You have to like do everything very well so that at least you will then have a chance to compete with someone that's actually doing it very well, that's ranked, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, make sure you got the list. So when I was talking to you earlier, we talked about the concept of have some free gifts for the listeners, and one of the things you said to me was that you'd give people a free SEO package for 1 month for anybody who signs up. So walk me through that, because that sounds pretty cool, right? So at the end of the day, you're basically giving out 1 month's worth of SEO. How does that work?
Yeah, so for us, typically we got to understand your business, see if it's a good fit. We kind of do an audit. That's also complimentary.
Nice.
And then we put together a package, see if that's of interest to you. And we both agree. And then it's usually on a 1-year term. And then we do offer that 1 month off.
Nice. Okay, cool. So at the end of the day, you've got nothing to lose by having a conversation, right?
Exactly. And that's a big thing. Like for us, we're all about like just educating people. And we might not be the best partner or good fit for you at this moment, but you'll remember us, right? And when you're ready, at least, I would always say, look into different mediums, different platforms, see what works for you, because every business is different, right? Bricks and mortar, service-based, product-based, there's a way to generate more sales and leads, especially if you never ventured into like this digital space, right? There's a lot of people searching today, and you just want that opportunity to be in front of them at the time of not just purchase, but either in the beginning of the purchase, informational gathering, to, they're frustrated with who they're using right now, and they need a different option. They're
second opinion, basically, right?
Exactly. And you just want to hit them and be there when they're looking, right? That's what SEO provides. So just more exposure.
So I see the website's local SEO search.ca. So I'll put those links up in terms of on the actual show page as well, so it's there. But basically, they can go there and so should they mention it when they talk to you? Essentially, I guess fill out a
definitely.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I think it's a lost art. I think SEO, like it's something that's been around, quite a while now. But I think it's still it's a bit like LinkedIn. I think it's like an unknown thing to a lot of people, and they just like avoid it. And I think it's something that shouldn't be avoided. It's almost one of the foundational things, as you say. If you're if you're doing a business, have a proper business, run a proper business, then those things will reflect on the outside world. And I think that's a big thing, and I think 80% of what goes on in your business is really what happens outside as well.
Exactly. I think a lot of people still think SEO is like Google Ads, or social media.
Yeah.
And therefore you just have to understand the difference, right?
Yes.
And it's a lot different, and it's a lot more difficult to own real estate, own the space.
Yeah.
But when you're positioned as that expert and leader, you're gonna definitely you're gonna reap much more of the rewards from that.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on, and hopefully we're going to talk to you again soon.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks a lot, John. Really had a good time.
Great. Thank you.